So we're in our second week of talking about missions today, and we talked last week about how kind of missions is one of those things that when you enter into it, it not only affects the world around you in a great way through the positive thing that we try to do as the church, it also has an amazing benefit to us on the inside in that the person that we were changes it. We look just the same, but yet we are different because of our experience, and that's really what mission offers. And I want to kind of continue to push this theme a little bit because I think it is so true for all of us. Missions has a way, when we get into it, of just having God work in our lives to a degree that the person that we were, even though we look just the same, is somehow transformed into a different kind of person who sees themselves and the world a different kind of way. Think of it this way. Deborah and I have been involved over the last week or so in a cleaning project, and I'll spare you the details of that. But it has meant that Deborah and I have made many trips to Home Depot in the cleaning aisle, and we've been cleaning, and I usually do most of the cleaning around our house, so I've been glad to have her come along for the ride, and that's what we call completely not true, just so you know. But we were cleaning this banister, and the banister is white, and it's kind of painted with a paint that is sort of got a little enamel to it, so there's a sheen. And I was looking at it, and it looked fine. You know, it was white. I could see that. Didn't see anything particularly on it. It had a little bit of a sheen to it, and so then I took this paper towel, and it had some cleaning thing on it, and wiped the banister just to wipe it down. And when I flipped the paper towel over, it was black. It was gross. It was grimy. And what was interesting or just bizarre about it is I could not see any of that. But yet when I wiped it down, all of a sudden got into it a little bit, and said, oh my gosh, look, there's something totally different underneath. Missions is a little bit of the same way, in that we might be cruising along in our life. You know, I come to church, I do this, I that, I'm in my Sunday school class, and all those are good things. But missions is kind of that second mile something. It's that maybe a little extravagant investment in the kingdom that in which we put ourselves in a different place, maybe meeting different people that we did not know before, doing something that's outside of our routine. And the effect of that, I think, is that God sort of wipes us down a little bit, and what we see is there's a better Christian in there. This faith that I've got can do more than I realized. And it can have a much greater impact on me and this world if I'll sort of look for my blind spots just a little bit and realize if I take a second step into this gospel Jesus offers, it can change me and this world. Our church, First Methodist Houston, is extraordinarily active in the mission field, doing all sorts of things. So much so that, people talk to me all the time about, it's like being involved locally or being involved internationally. But the truth is, in a city like Houston, those lines blur. Because if it's a problem in the globe, it's a problem in Houston. If it's going on in this world, it's going on in Houston, Texas. And when you look around, even at our congregation at First Methodist Houston, here and out west, extraordinarily diverse. I tell folks we are like Noah's Ark. We've got two of every kind. They're all here. They are. But as a result, our missions are just extraordinary. And so today we wanted to feature a little bit one of the things that we do in working with the refugee community in West Houston. And what I think you'll see is that this is one of those things Jesus is doing in our church where the lines between local and global are just blurred, and I don't think Jesus would have it any other way. Put your eyes on the screen and see some of what our church is doing with refugees in our city.
Our refugee ministry actually started a few years ago. We were helping them furnish apartments because they had no furniture, helping them provide clothing and food. What we focus on now is mostly on tutoring. By doing this weekly, we have been able to establish a relationship with the kids and their families.
I have been working with the refugee ministry now for over a year. For me, to think about the refugee ministry, what it encompasses is God's teaching for us to love our neighbors as we love ourselves and live a life full of service. And that's exactly what we're doing here with our refugee neighbors.
As we've developed these relationships, we've learned about things that they're interested in. We discover that the girls are interested in college and have a lot of questions. So this fall, one of our focuses is going to be to help them apply for schools and apply for scholarships and do their financial aid.
I've seen these kiddos grow and build confidence in themselves and learn more and be excited to come and share again with me, winning a scholarship or making an A in class or being included in a popsicle treat. That to me is success, and that is why we do what we do, and that is the fuel to continue to keep giving.
One of the things that has surprised me the most about this ministry has been the volunteers and their commitment to it. And the reason why they are so dedicated to this ministry is because they don't know of any other organization or church that's doing what we're doing, where we're going into people's homes and building relationships with them. When we sit at a table and have a meal and drink tea, it's so incredible to see that there's different faiths represented in that table and how God is there and God is present.
We all need each other. Life is tough. We have to lean on each other to get anywhere in life. And anything that we pass along to them, they can turn around and pass it along to others. And that's what counts.
So I want to tell you a little bit more. Go ahead, that's great. I want to add some details to the story. In the video, we'll post it on our Facebook page if you want to watch it again. You'll see that there's a brown couch in one of the apartments. I have sat on that brown couch. And I was there because the host family, who's sort of a cornerstone family for our work there, they are a Muslim family, as many or almost all of the refugees that we work with are. And they invited me to come to a break the fast Ramadan dinner at their apartment. And I went. And it was a very busy day. I was in suit and tie because I just sleep in this. These are my pajamas, and I just get up and I go. That's how it is when you're senior pastor at First Methodist Houston. And so it's about 7:30, 8 o'clock at night, because it's after sunset is when things start. I enter the apartment and we begin to eat. And the food is great. We're all sitting on the floor without our shoes on. And so then we move up to the couch. I'm sitting on the couch, and the host family says to me, they said, in Islam, in the Quran, Jesus is a figure. He's mentioned in his teachings or talked about. I said, yes, I know. And he said, I would like to talk to you about Jesus for a few minutes. Would you mind? I said, no. And so we spend the next hour and a half talking about Christ. Now, granted, from a different perspective, but there's conversation happening. And the Spirit is moving. And relationships are forming. Where is this going to lead? I don't know. But I can tell you that Jesus is very much alive in the conversation and what's going on there, and it is part of his plan. One of the things I say about First Methodist Houston is we are followers of Jesus, and we invite everybody to come along. But when we say we are followers of Jesus, what that means is we will go where he leads us. And so even though if the finish line is tough for us to see, or what is this going to look like in the future, we don't know, we engage in the process because God works through it. Second step, we had Vacation Bible School on the West Campus this summer, and we had about 10 to 12 teenage Muslim girls volunteering at our Vacation Bible School, where they heard about Jesus over and over and over. And I'm just watching this. I walk in to the West Campus, and it's Vacation Bible School, so it's high energy. There's videos, there's music, and there's dancing. And I see just sort of, our kids, normal kids, doing their thing, praising God. It looks really cool. And then on one side of the room, I see these Muslim young women, and they are also doing the dances and saying the words. They were some of the best Vacation Bible School volunteers we had. How many churches would even try to take that on? How many churches would even know where to begin? But you see, one of the things I love about First Methodist Houston is wherever the challenge is, we will rise to take it on. And so when you see the news about Christians and Muslims, this and that, don't believe it. Because Jesus is trying to build bridges and mend gaps so that there can be conversations between us and we can grow in our understanding and let the Lord lead us. And it's happening at First Methodist Houston. But I want to tell you a little bit more about the video. You met somebody named Ashley Scott, one of our key volunteers. I want to tell you about her. I met her at a wedding that I was doing in Austin for the first time. There was a rehearsal dinner. Deborah and I are there. It was an unbelievably tedious, slow rehearsing dinner. Everybody made a toast. It went on and on and on. But Ashley and her boyfriend were seated across from us. And so we don't know each other. We're talking. We're just having conversation. And then they asked the ultimate conversation killer question. Andy, what do you do for a living? Where I say, I'm a United Methodist pastor. And then that opens up a door. We meet. We talk. She comes to church. She brings her parents. Then she gets connected to the refugee ministry, and she's there every single week. When people tell me that the younger generation just doesn't get it or the millennials don't know what's going on, I say that's baloney. That's absolutely foolish rhetoric, because I will tell you, the younger generations are the most mission-minded Jesus has seen in quite some time. And Ashley and her friends are there. And honestly, it means so much to them. It is more important, right or wrong, for them to be there in that apartment complex teaching kids every single week than it is in worship. Now, I would like to see that change because the preaching is just so good. Selfish request. But it matters to them. And so you see, it's when we talk about missions, it's not a program. It's a way of life. And when you enter into it, you and everything around you changes. It changes the way you see other people. It changes the way you see buildings in the skyline. It changes the way you see generations and problems in the news. These things change when you become a missional Christian. And so the question for all of us is to say, where are we? We can go to church just like we can go to the Marriott Hotel and let it serve me, feed me, nourish me, give me my weekly whatever, and then be on our way. Or we can cross the line and say, I want to be that person who makes things happen, who the Spirit moves through. I want to be involved in that thing where I see people come to life in a greater way, because that's really the secret invitation that Jesus has for all of us. There were those who were at Bethany that day when Lazarus walked out of the tomb, and I'm convinced they left unchanged. They were awed by what they saw. They could not believe what had happened. But at the end of the day, the spectators walked away and went back to their normal life, never to be heard from again. But there were those who saw the resurrection of Lazarus in a different way. There were those who said, unbelievable what Jesus has done. And if I get to know him, if I begin to have a faith in him, if I begin to model my life after him, I can have and be a part of a life like his and see these same things happen every single day and every single week. Isn't it funny how so many people saw this miracle and yet left blind? A smaller percentage, though, saw the miracle and accepted the invitation. And that's so much more powerful in reading the story, relating to Scripture, being a part of your church. The invitation is to step into it. And if we live this life, following Jesus and living like him, what a difference that it will make. It'll seem like we are just the same person, because you'll look in the mirror and you'll see the similar reflection. You will be the same person, but yet you will be completely changed. I'm so encouraged when I see sparks like that happen. Last week we had a joining Sunday, and we had 4 families join the church. We had 3 here downtown and 1 out west. And afterwards, we were all sitting right there, and I just kind of asked him. I said, how'd you get to know the church? And just what were the things going on? And we had one gentleman who had been in the mission field in his earlier life and is now relocated to Houston. And he said, I was just amazed at what First Methodist Houston does in missions. I've been coming to the church for a while, and I said, this is where I've got to be a part. He said, I'd love to sing in the choir. I said, oh, be careful, pray about that. There's some really interesting personalities up there. And he said, no, I feel called to do it. So we made the introduction. Visit with the second person, a young man, corporate attorney, works here downtown. And I asked him, how did you get to know First Methodist Houston? And he said, honestly, I came to Source in the City one time at the invitation of a guest. He said, then I started listening to the First Methodist Houston podcast. And he said, I had some questions about God and Jesus and faith. And so he said, so I started sending the questions in. He said, you know what happened? You guys started to answer them. And so we began through the podcast to have a conversation about some things that were really important to me. And then when it came time to, an invitation was extended to join the church, he said, this is the place that I've got to be a part of, and I've got to belong to. And I said, that's awesome. That's so cool. And I'm having coffee with him next week. The third person was a family that joined, and I asked, I said, well, how did you get to know us? And she said, the first time I came to the church was the indoor park that First Methodist offers. You may have noticed it's hotter than heck in Houston in August, which means parents with young kids look for a place that's air conditioned to play, and many of them do. She said, you guys were so nice. I came to that. They said there was a volunteer there who extended an invitation us to come to worship. She said, I've come for the last 3 times. I can't imagine belonging anywhere else. I'd love to be a part. And so those 3 joined the church. Now, what I'll also say that all those have in common, and it's really true, I believe, with anybody who joins any church, is that part of the reason you join, part of the reason you become a part, is because somewhere in you, is this feeling that you're becoming more alive than you were. When I'm connected to God, when I'm connected to those around me, as Jesus would say, when I love God and when I love my neighbor, the truth is a transformation happens in us and we become more than we were. The resurrection of Lazarus, you can read it as a story. You can read it as a miracle. And both of those would be fine. But the greatest way to read that story is an invitation. And that when you get to know this Jesus and you live like him, that missional life, as we mentioned before, what that can do changes you and changes you in ways in which you can never imagine. And the truth is, God only sees. Because you see, God doesn't see sort of the grime that's on the surface, and we've all got it. What God sees is the disciple that we can be, and if we're willing to have Jesus help us and sort of wipe us down, if you will, get the sin off, let the forgiveness come in, the new life begin, you and I can feel that change and know it every single day. Final story. I have this little saying, and I think it's true, and that Jesus, I honestly believe with all my heart, loves everybody. I think he messes with me. I think that's just how it goes. And it's nice, it's well-intentioned, but I just think in the way Jesus and I banter, I think he just delights in giving me a hard time some days. But it's always powerful because, these things that we talk about, when you see them in action and you experience them, it's just different. And so over the last few weeks, Deborah and I have been doing a variety of things. And one of the things, if you live downtown or if you live in an urban area, one of the things that becomes part of your life is valet parking, right? Uber and valet. Those are your two options. Because parking is just hard to find. I'm convinced there's some lot, the closer you dig down in the earth towards hell, there's just parking, secret where everybody parks, but you can only find it if you valet. They know where it is, you don't. But the last 4 times I've valet parked, my car's gotten lost. It's like taking 20 minutes to get my car back. And so the first time was at a Mexican restaurant. It took about 20 minutes, and everybody else left. It was just me, right? And they eventually found my car, brought it back. So this happened the second time, third time. It happened again this week. I was at a place, and they parked my car, and everybody left. It's me, and the people. And they said, "Are you still here?" I said, "Yep." I said, "Do you still have my car?" They said, "We don't know." Not an encouraging answer. So it dawned on me, it's like, well, why don't you get to know a little bit about him? So I said, "Are any of you guys Astros fans?" "Yeah, we are." And so we start talking about Justin Verlander and things. And I said, "Do you guys live here in Houston?" "Yeah, sure do." And so we began to kind of banter about that. And then they asked me, they said, it's like, "What do you do?" And it's like, "I'm pastor of First Methodist Houston." And I said, "Oh, really? What's that like? Where is that?" And so we began to talk about that. And so we're just, all of a sudden, instead of just kind of being this customer-client kind of thing, we're just kind of 4 people having a conversation. And eventually, they find my car. And it comes rolling out, and, it dawns on me. You can connect with people in sort of a transactional kind of way. And the people who watched this miracle in Scripture, a certain percentage of them did that. They saw the show, but they didn't enter in. Or you can have a conversation where you really make an effort just to get to know something about them. And when you do, the relationship changes. So I had a little bit of money in my front pocket because usually tip the thing. And I actually had a little bit more money in my right pocket because I hadn't decided yet how much I liked these people. So there was a few bucks in the left and there was a few more in the right. And so my car eventually, very late, pulls up. And it's been one of the guys I'd talking about. He had shared some things with me. I'd shared some things with him. And so I reach out to give him a tip with the larger amount. I hand it his way. He declines it. He says, you know what? We screwed this all up. He said, it's been good to talk, but we really just messed this up. He said, I can't take that. And I said, yes, you can. I said, I'm a United Methodist pastor, and we all need a little bit of grace. Sometimes we're just going to screw things up, right? But Jesus wipes us off, cleans us up, and still yet invites us to this amazing life if we accept the invitation. Now, I didn't say it to him quite that way. That would have been a little lengthy. But I did say to him, hey, we all screw up once in a while. We need to be forgiven and shown a little bit of grace. I said, please take it. I've enjoyed our conversation, even though it's taken longer than both of us wanted. It's been good to talk to you. And he took it. I'm convinced there's a way to go through life. Well, there's more than one way, but there's only one right way to go through life. And that's the way that Jesus would have us go, where we genuinely connect with the people around us. We follow him. We make the sacrifices that he asks for, whatever they are, so that we might go along this road with him. And what will happen to us and this world is the same, in that we will both be drastically changed for the better, and we will see great works where people literally come back to life, and one of those folks will be us. Pray with me. Thank you for joining us today. We want you to know, no matter where you are or how you worship with us, you are always part of our church family. We would love to have you join us live downtown at 8:45 or 11 o'clock, or as always, through the broadcast. We would love to hear from you. If you have a question about today's service, if you would like to contact one of our pastors, if we can pray for you in any way, please reach out to us through our church website. Thanks for worshiping with us today. It was great to have you with us.